that your body will say, you need to pay attention to this. And if you're
Oh,
not, it will
really?
continue to ramp it up until you say, okay, I'm finally listening. So,
Yeah.
it was all of
Wake
this
up.
combined,
Mm.
cumulative, that really ramped up all the stress. And that, of course, affected my CMT, which is the
Mm.
reason it took
Yeah.
them 9 years to diagnose it in the first place.
Gee whiz. So it's a cumulative, and I think stress can be and it can sneak up.
Yes.
And that's why it's so important for us to kind of, one of the podcasts I did last week, it's like we need to drop the body. We
Oh,
need to lose ourselves and come to our senses,
yes.
and release. However, here's my number one first question. So I'm just bringing it up on the screen. Is healing something we can do to ourselves? And if so, what is the 101 self-healing you would suggest? Because your book is really based around the practice
It
of
is.
self-healing. So
It is.
I'd love to hear some of your beautiful techniques and some of the suggestions that you
Mhm.
would give to us.
Well, there are 4 basic breathing techniques I use in the book. And I will give you one because first of all, it's been a long time and I utilize one of them more than the rest. So the one I utilize a lot is the idea of parasympathetic breathing. And if you understand breathing, you know that really that involves an in breath that you count. And typically I will count to 4 in my head, when I take that in breath. And then when you exhale, you double it. So I will count out to 8. Because while the inhale is helpful as everyone focuses on the inhale, when you say breathing, they're like, I got to take a breath.
Or we forget to breathe. I tend to do that. I tend to
Yes.
hold my breath if I'm
Yes.
stressed or if I'm disconnected, if I'm in that disconnect
Yes.
and I need to come back in. Do you think this kind of breathing does ground us?
Oh, of course. And it's not the inhale I focus on, it is the exhale. Because the
Right.
exhale is what triggers that parasympathetic response. And that parasympathetic response isn't just rest, it is also recovery. So
Mhm.
that is what you need. That is the key to your grounding, not the inhale, it's the exhale.
So I tend to do a breath work where you breathe in through your nose
Yes.
and you hold it at the top. And because I'm involved, as you are too, in neuro-linguistic programming,
Mhm.
I always set intentions. So
Mhm.
maybe when I'm getting people to breathe to begin with, we'll just get them into the swing of that.
Mhm.
And then I'll say, okay, why don't we breathe in life? What if
Mhm.
we could breathe in confidence and peace and joy?
Sure.
Because the power of intention is so vital. So
Yeah.
then they're kind of breathing in through their nose.
Mhm.
And then I'm getting them to breathe out through their mouth.
Right.
So I don't know whether you do it that way, but so I'm in through the nose, out through the mouth.
Yep.
And when it's sort of coming out through the mouth, I'm saying now let go of all the rubbish.
Yes.
Let go of all the stress.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
Edge Radio.
It's Edge Radio Australia and welcome on in. All the way from the UK, I have a delightful woman who is going to enlighten us with a beautiful healing practice. Hello, Jean. How are you?
I'm doing really, really well. Thanks, Terry. How are you?
I'm going pretty good. We're getting a bit chilly over here. And I guess you're going into your summer months at the moment. So
Mm.
that's amazing.
Well, let me put it this way. We melt in, 30, 35-degree heat, and that's what we've had for the past week. So there are puddles everywhere.
Amazing, amazing. So it never ceases to amaze me how we're on the other side of the world, both in our temperature, our weather, our time, and everything else. But, there's a lot of people that may not know this, but you are an author, a speaker. You are an incredible woman who has written how many books? Is it 30?
Over 30.
Over 30 books. I don't know where you find the time. And of course, one of them is really on healing, self-healing practice. And this is what we're going to be talking about today. And what may surprise a lot of people is you have a very rare autoimmune disease or neurodegenerative disease, actually. Can you talk us through that?
Well, it is called Charcot-Marie-Tooth disease, and people abbreviate it with CMT. And it is rare. It's degenerative. It affects the peripheral nerves, and it is slowly taking away the use of my hands and my feet.
Wow. So how do you use your hands then? Like, have you got much use left in your hands at the moment?
I don't have a lot of muscle for grip strength in my hands, so I have to be resourceful. So I use plumber's pliers and whatever I can find. I
Wow.
wear a lot of disposable gloves because they give me grip and they help a lot with things that I have to do, and they keep my hands protected. But yeah, so I can still type. They are not really sure what I'm doing to make that happen. I can still walk, and they're not really sure what I'm doing to make that happen. So,
Is that sort of like a miracle, is it, that you're walking
well,
at the moment?
I shouldn't be able to walk right now.
Right.
I literally have no motor sensory perception in my feet and ankles. So
Wow.
they don't understand what I'm doing to be able to walk. But I will walk as long as possible.
Of course you will. And that's what we're going to get into today.
Mm-hmm.
And, this is not just relevant for rare diseases. And I became very obviously acquainted with rare diseases because, as I mentioned to you last night backstage, my late husband passed away from an extremely rare CJD, which is, we didn't know that he had it until 11 weeks before he passed.
Yeah.
So we behaved a bit like yourself, I guess, utilizing a lot of our own self-healing techniques. So I think it was an advantage we didn't know he had CJD. So CJD is a neurodegenerative disease, and it eventually just takes away every single aspect of their capability. And we didn't know why he was going down so rapidly. But I feel that not knowing may have been the faith that we kept him alive, because he was one of the longest survivors.
Yeah.
And you're talking about how you're walking and what a miracle that is. So we're going to get into some of these healing practices, faith, and all the things, and what you believe about restorative or restoration and frequency. But for our viewers who may not know what we're talking about, can you explain firstly what restoration and frequency is?
Well, there are two things that kind of go hand in hand, but restoration is the umbrella term for everything we do to become whole again in whatever way, coherent, whole, healed. Restoration will get you there as long as you're willing to do what's necessary to get there, because there are things that we become so attached to that we don't want to give them up, and sometimes we need to in order to restore. The other bit is frequency, and frequency is everywhere and everything. It is the thing that connects all of us. It doesn't matter where you are in the world, because we are made of frequency. This is the basic thing that is in the universe that keeps us all connected. So if you employ frequency and you learn about it and you understand it, you can utilize it in a way that will help you instead of go against you. And it really is about stress and resistance more than anything where frequency is concerned.
Because we're going to get into that as well, because I know one of the questions that I have for you is coming back to ourself, because a big piece of what you teach about is the way we tend to become very disconnected.
Yes.
So, that disconnection, it usually happens if we're stressed, exhausted, overwhelmed, or perhaps it can be a trauma response to fight flight for us to kind of bail out of our own physical being and kind of become disconnected. How can we identify that? Can you talk to us a little bit about disconnection and reconnection with self?
Well, I think one thing that I encounter a lot when I speak with people one-to-one is that they don't really know who they are. And if you don't really know who you are, that's a big clue that you're a bit disconnected.
Right.
And if I were to ask you, who are you? Most people would identify who they are with the things that they do or the things that other people perceive them as. So mother, daughter, sister, things that you do, podcaster, executive, whatever.
Chiropractor, maybe.
Yes. Yeah. It doesn't, every label you can think of under the sun, but that's not really who you are. And
right.
when you go deeper and start asking questions and helping people explore that, it allows them an opportunity to discover that they don't have to be all those labels. And they can become who they are rather than who everyone thinks they need to be. And
right.
within that, then you can kind of move forward with a lot of freedom.
Well, after all, we are human beings, right? We're not human doings.
Yes. Yes.
So then what do we, what can we say? So if I said, who are you? Can you give me an example if I said, Jean Hamilton-Fford, who are you?
I am a divine being of light.
Oh, that was easy. Okay, so you're a divine being of light. What kind of a divine being of light?
Well, that's what I'm here for. That's what we're all here for. We are frequency, we're light, we're sound. We're here to shine and to be heard, our message, whatever message that may be, because it's different for everyone.
Do you think people are missing the whole point of life in a way? I mean, just because I've prompted by what you've just said, but if, talking about, well, I'm a healer or I'm a podcaster or I'm an actor or whatever it is, when in fact I am who I am.
Yes.
And as you have said, that frequency connection is, a very big link to what connects the whole universe and the whole world together as one. And Joe Dispenza quite often through his meditations says, I am that. I am.
Yeah.
And, so are people missing the point of their life? And is it about, I like the way you're laughing, but is it more about they are who they are because their purpose is a big piece of that? Do you think it is the soul calling and the purpose?
Well, I think a lot of people don't really see or understand fully what their purpose is. You can ask people what your purpose is, and a lot of people are a bit stymied because they don't think about it. We're all so distracted. You know that.
Yeah. Distracted by the fancy car and the fancy house and, having a job and being a socialite and, doing all the things. And these are all materialistic things. But I heard something very profound yesterday. It was my husband's 6-month anniversary. So it was a very spiritual day. It was a very deep day. And I heard that we live to die. And I
Yes.
thought, I have not heard that before, but it was, we live to die. And then my mother corrected it or perfected it by saying, we die then to live.
Yes. Yes.
And really that can be what you were saying before. You said earlier about how we're attached to so many things.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think those attachments are meanings that are playing havoc in our life?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. They become our limitations. So
Mm,
what you're attached to. If you're attached to that house, you got to pay for it. If you got to pay for it, what are you going to do to pay for it? And what are you going to do then if you're not happy? Are you working something that you're not happy doing because you have to pay for your house? You become attached to things. They become your limitation. They become your prison. If you simply
right.
step back and say, what is it I need? Because no one really knows what they want. They know what they don't want,
True.
but
Absolutely true.
most people don't really understand what it is they want. So stop asking that question and start asking, what is it that I need?
Okay, so, oh, that's interesting. I mean, I could challenge that. Uh, Something my husband always said was, I don't ever want to get to a place
Mhm,
where I say, I need you or I need this. I want to be in that place where I say, I want you or I want this.
mhm,
So it's interesting how those two words, it's a bit of a play on words between wanting something and needing something. But
yeah.
aren't we dependent if we need things, if we become needy?
Well, there are basic needs that we do need, aren't there? We
True.
need food, we need water, we need shelter, we need clothing just to keep us safe, right? We need that sense of safety and a sense of significance, or we wither. That's
Mm.
just, those are basic needs. So what is it
Safety,
that
security, human needs is really what we require, and
Mhm.
everything else is just baggage.
It is just baggage if you think about it, and it's baggage that we think we need, because we don't really know what we want. Do you see?
No.
So this is the conundrum that we're faced with, and this is the thing that people bring to the table when you start to chat with them, because we all have our different perceptions. Just like you said, it was a play on words. Words are so important, and yet the words that I use may not be the words you would use to say
Mm.
the same thing. And sometimes this is what we need, because we don't always hear what you might
Mm.
say that I will say in a different way, or that I might say that you would say in a different way. So,
And words
yes.
are our wand, aren't they? I mean, I tend to hold that philosophy that words are our wand in terms of what comes out of our mouth,
Indeed.
but also what we are saying to ourselves. And most of the things that we are saying to ourselves is all wrapped up in meaning and beliefs
Mhm,
and patterns that, in any case, come
mhm.
from the past.
Indeed.
And obviously, we're going to go deeper into how we are impacted physically
Mhm.
by our thoughts, because the body, I do believe that the body keeps the score. I don't know whether you've read that book,
I
but
haven't.
the body doesn't lie. So the body kind of keeps the score. And quite often, when you get that feeling, like if you meet someone for the first time
Mhm.
and you get that feeling, oh, I don't like that person, it's kind of like your GPS radar. And they
Kind of.
quite often say, without all the overthinking, it's the first thing that comes to you that
Mhm.
is actually important. But let's get into your book. I'd love to start getting some questions answered on this. So firstly, tell us about this book about the practice of healing,
Okay.
and just give it a little bit of a preface.
Well, I wrote the book back in 2015, I think it was. It's called I Am the Healing Practice. And I wrote that because I had just been diagnosed with CMT 3 years earlier. And when I was diagnosed, I shortly thereafter left my job in the NHS, and it took me 18 months to heal. So this book came about because I was dealing with the fallout from the stress of my job, dealing with unlocking all the creativity I had stored away that wanted to come forward, dealing with understanding what CMT was and the way my body was being in that moment, and dealing with the pain that came along with CMT, because when your nerves degenerate, there is some pain involved unless you understand what's going on, and you don't, fear is part of this. So if you're not understanding what your body is experiencing, it will put you into a fear state, which will just increase the pain. So
Wow.
relaxing into it, and
Yeah.
as I think you were saying yesterday, moving into acceptance and surrender, even if you don't realize you are, helps you
Yeah.
deal with that pain.
Yes.
Yes.
So it's about not running away from the pain. In other words,
Mm-hmm.
almost embracing it,
Mm-hmm.
and accepting it and surrendering. And there's so many elements of that acceptance and that surrender
Mm-hmm.
that allows something to happen where there is like an expansion of energy and almost a manifestation that takes place. Do you believe that part of the stress that happened around, because that was quite traumatic for you,
Mm-hmm.
in, you're in a high level court position, do you believe that stress played an impact of triggering your
Oh, yeah,
situation?
definitely. Stress is such a driver for chronic illness, and it's also a driver for exacerbation of whatever you've got going on inside. And we bring it on ourselves to some degree because we're not willing to sometimes face what it is that is creating the stress in the first place. You kind of have to
Mm,
move into a bit of fearlessness and create and actually confront that, not in a harsh way, but
yeah,
see it for what it is, and then
yeah,
decide what you're going to do with it, because
yeah.
the decision is up to you, and it's in your life for a reason, and sometimes it's in your life for a wake-up call.
Yes. It's almost, I can kind of hear myself telling myself
Mhm.
that no amount of prestige or socialite positioning
Mhm.
or materialistic possession is
Mhm.
worth my health and my body. So if I am in a position where I am really unhappy and miserable, I mean, for you, was that stress because of that high level corporate role you were in, or is it after you came out of it?
Oh, no, stress is not necessarily just related to job. I mean,
Oh, no,
we
no.
had discovered that, my husband had bladder cancer, and
Mm,
he was just ending 11 years of treatment for that, and, they were finally telling him he didn't have to come back. And, you don't realize how much stress you carry
mm,
when you're going through all of the annual checks, or, every time that date comes up, you have to go back and make sure it's not there.
yeah.
There's so much stress involved with that. So
Mm,
it was the fact that CMT was just fatiguing me and destroying my energy so badly.
mm,
And I didn't understand what was going on until someone said, this is what is going on. It's like, now I can understand that. Now I can take steps to support myself and deal with that. So I had that stress going on. And then I had a manager who was an extreme micromanager, and I was a manager. She was my supervisor. And, it's, if you're not allowed to speak, if you're not allowed to think, if you're not allowed to breathe because you've got someone managing you so badly, you're going to develop things that your body will say, you need to pay attention to this. And if you're
Oh,
not, it will
really?
continue to ramp it up until you say, okay, I'm finally listening. So,
Yeah.
it was all of
Wake
this
up.
combined,
Mhm.
cumulative, that really ramped up all the stress. And that, of course, affected my CMT, which is the
Mhm.
reason it took
Yeah.
them 9 years to diagnose it in the first place.
Gee whiz. So it's a cumulative, and I think stress can be and it can sneak up. And
Yes.
that's why it's so important for us to kind of, one of the podcasts I did last week, it's like we need to drop the body. We
Well,
need to lose ourself and come to our senses,
yeah.
and release. However, here's my number one first question. So I'm just bringing it up on the screen. Is healing something we can do to ourselves? And if so, what is the 101 self healing you would suggest? Because your book is really based around the practice
It
of
is.
self healing. So
It is.
I'd love to hear some of your beautiful techniques and some of the suggestions that you
Mhm.
would give to us.
Well, there are 4 basic breathing techniques I use in the book. And I will give you one because first of all, it's been a long time and I utilize one of them more than the rest. So the one I utilize a lot is the idea of parasympathetic breathing. And if you understand breathing, you know that really that involves an in breath that you count. And typically I will count to 4 in my head, when I take that in breath. And then when you exhale, you double it. So I will count out to 8. Because while the inhale is helpful as everyone focuses on the inhale, when you say breathing, they're like, I got to take a breath.
Or we forget to breathe. I tend to do that. I tend to
Yeah.
hold my breath if I'm
Yes.
stressed or if I'm disconnected, if I'm in that disconnect
Yes.
and I need to come back in. Do you think this kind of breathing does ground us?
Oh, of course. And it's not the inhale I focus on, it is the exhale. Because the
Right.
exhale is what triggers that parasympathetic response. And that parasympathetic response isn't just rest, it is also recovery. So
Mhm.
that is what you need. That is the key to your grounding, not the inhale, it's the exhale.
So I tend to do a breath work where you breathe in through your nose
Yes.
and you hold it at the top. And because I'm involved, as you are too, in neuro-linguistic programming,
Mhm.
I always set intentions. So
Mhm.
maybe when I'm getting people to breathe to begin with, we'll just get them into the swing of that.
Mhm.
And then I'll say, okay, why don't we breathe in life? What if
Mhm.
we could breathe in confidence and peace and joy?
Sure.
Because the power of intention is so vital. So
Yeah.
then they're kind of breathing in through their nose.
Mhm.
And then I'm getting them to breathe out through their mouth.
Right.
So I don't know whether you do it that way, but so I'm in through the nose, out through the mouth.
Yep.
And when it's sort of coming out through the mouth, I'm saying, now let go of all the rubbish.
Yes.
Let go of all the stress, let go
Mhm.
of all the attachments that you've got and the
Sure.
trauma, just release it out. So I tend to do that. Do you mainly do it that way? Do you use the nose
Well,
for the
yes and
inhale and
no.
the mouth for the
Yeah.
exhale? Okay,
I
I'm
always
interested.
do in through the nose and out through the mouth, definitely. But I
Mhm.
don't do what you do with the rest because I simplify things.
Yeah. No,
Because
I'm very complex.
yeah, the more simple you are, the easier it is to continue it. So I always start with the exhale. You take a breath in for certain. Just take a breath in through your nose for count to 4 as you do it. And then as you exhale, I want you to exhale the word I,
Mm,
because I is attached to the ego.
okay.
I is the bit that needs to go. It's attached to the self. So if you're releasing through your exhale, you're releasing your attachment to self.
Oh, okay. So you're saying I and you're breathing out.
breathing that out and releasing that. And that is the first step. Then you take in another inhale through the nose and you inhale the word am.
Am.
Mm-hmm.
And then I.
I
Okay.
out, am in. Not
Am
am
I?
first. No, it's always I out. This is why I focus on the exhale first.
Right.
Am in. And then that last exhale, I let you exhale a word that is present tense through, because you're going to release that. So, for instance, you don't say I am healing. You say I am healed. That's
Absolutely.
done. It is done.
Yes.
And you
Yes.
release the attachment to that. So you breathe that out. I have a whole list of words in the back of the book that you can start with. But
Yeah.
the idea is you don't want things ending in ing. You want words that are done and words that are present.
Beautiful. You know, when I did my hypnotherapy accreditation, we learned that it was more around words that were utilized, just like what you've just said.
Mm-hmm.
So if you were talking to someone, you know, everyone thinks they have to go to sleep. And, you know, I mean, people do go to sleep when they're with me anyway. I have that kind of voice apparently. But you're putting their problem in the past.
Yes.
So if they say, I've got a drinking problem or I'm stressed, you turn around and you say to them, so you've been stressed, didn't you? And that doesn't even make any sense.
No.
So their brain suddenly goes in to try and figure out what you just meant by that.
Mm-hmm.
And then it suddenly realizes that you've put the problem in the past.
Yes.
And isn't it nice now that you are going to feel so much better now, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And so you'd come into all these really bizarre kind of words,
Yes.
but it was interesting how you used past, present, and future to, you know, really self-hypnotize or to be speaking to somebody else. Anyway, here is our next question. In your book, you suggest that healing is not about becoming something or someone else, not to say that I could ever think I'd be somebody else, but maybe we wished we were somebody else if our problem was big enough. But it's more about returning to ourself.
Yeah.
So when you say this, because when explained like you've got to return back to yourself, well, naturally, I am myself.
Mm-hmm.
So what does that mean?
Well, you are yourself as far as you desire to be yourself. Again, you're attached to labels. You're attached to the trappings of who yourself is. Returning to self is taking the time. It isn't going back. It's becoming present. It's about returning to who you are in this moment on an internal way, not externally. And you know, people will always want to reach out to explain things. And I say, oh, no. We're going in. We're not going to go out.
Go inside.
That's right. Literally, yes. So when they start talking about someone else, I'm saying to them, but that's not you. We need to get back to you. Come on back and let's talk about you. I'm not interested in them. We're going to talk about you. So coming back every single time, and this is where we turn back to ourselves because we have to get rid of all of our external stuff in order to go back inside. But it is about being present. Be present.
A lot of people are running away from themselves too, aren't they? And, you know, I remember listening to someone who said, you know, this person, they sort of go from job to job or, you know, from partner to partner. But what they fail to remember is that they're running away from themselves.
They are, yeah.
You can't run away from yourself. You've got to bring it back to who you are.
Right now.
So, yeah, right now. And that's so important, isn't it? You know, I mean, being, you know, are you here and now? And even asking the question, where am I right now? Am I thinking of the future? Am I worried about what's going to happen next week? Or am I concerned about what's happened yesterday and what I ate for lunch, or, something that somebody said to me? So it's really about bringing it back into the present. I mean, that's very simple, I know, but how many of us are living literally in the future and in the past?
Oh, all of us. We all do it. But it's becoming aware that we're doing it and saying, right, I got to take a minute and come on. Let's come back to let's right now, who am I? Right now, what's in front of me? Right now, what's my very next step? I don't need to think about 10,000 steps down the road. I just need to think about right now and the next one. That's it. Nothing more.
Yeah.
Because every step takes you in the direction you need to go.
Yes.
Even if it doesn't seem like it.
That brings me to the forgiveness part. I don't want to forget that. I want to make sure we cover this because Jean doesn't believe in forgiveness.
No.
And, whether it's a case of you don't believe in forgiveness, because that's, a big part of my teaching is all around forgiveness. But then I think there is a little bit of a, kind of an oxymoron around that. But let's not forget to touch on that. When people have got physical ailments such as an autoimmune system or other diseases, is this often triggered by stress? I know we did cover that in the beginning when we started talking. And if so, what is the best way to release it? Would you say breath work for that one? What would be the simple tool, for a person at home?
The most immediate tool you can ever use for anything is breath work because it is right there with you every single day. So it is the most immediate form of relief that you can get from anything if you're willing to employ it. You've just got to take a minute. It doesn't have to take 15 minutes. You don't have to do a whole meditation. You just need to take a couple, 2 or 3 breaths in through the nose. Remember, out through the mouth, do the 4-8, and just let things go. Activate that parasympathetic pathway, and that stress will reduce.
What do you reckon is the secret to your miracle in terms of you being able to walk when, medically you shouldn't be able to? Like, well, I shouldn't say shouldn't, but what do you think your secret is?
I don't believe what they tell me.
Ha, great. I love that. Don't believe what they tell you.
No, I am very much about, I'm not going to adopt what other people believe about my body. I know my body, and I know that I can activate parts in my body that will help and support me. So this is part of the thing. We talk about meridians and things like this and alternative healing practices. And I don't even believe that. I believe every single cell communicates with every other cell of your body. And if you talk to every cell and say, this is what we're doing today, guys, you got to help me out here. Let's make it happen. Your body will support you if you're willing to talk to your body and use it as a partner. It's not about getting rid of the body. Your body is always communicating with you. And I think of the body as the unconscious because it is always communicating with you.
That's a good point. The body being connected to the subconscious,
the unconscious, not necessarily the subconscious, even though, you see, we get the terms differently, don't we? Some people say subconscious
to subconscious, because I know I used to flip when I first learned hypnosis. I used to flip between the unconscious and the subconscious. Do you want to kind of, draw the line of what
to me,
the
the unconscious is the body. Period.
Then the subconscious is?
Well, what is your consciousness?
Well, the consciousness is like the logic, isn't it? It's like you and I are having this conversation. I might be noticing things. I was talking to someone here at Edge Radio before about it, that it's many people think hypnosis is about putting people to sleep. It's actually not.
No.
It's about bypassing the logic. And the logic is the judgment part of the
That's
brain,
right.
like, oh, what is she wearing today? Oh, look at those earphones on her head. Or, it's that natural judgy part that's operating.
Yes.
And when we can kind of bypass and close that down, it's when the logic goes to sleep. And you go inside, and then that's where we meet with the subconscious. I always say I become best friends with the person's subconscious.
Yes, and that is the bridge between the conscious and the unconscious, the body, right?
Got it.
But it's also part of both of them. I'm not into bypassing any of it. I'm into, right, this is what I'm thinking right now. I'm going to embrace this, and I'm just going to move beyond that. Let's move beyond that. It's not about bypassing it. It's about acknowledging it. It's about letting it register for a minute, because it's going to anyway in the body. So you may as well say, yep, I see it. Let's go beyond that, and let's get to the heart of things.
Yeah, you're commanding it. You're making a command. Yeah, so the command business, I mean, the bypass was just a technical terminology that we had to learn as when we became hypnotherapists to kind of draw that distinction of what we're actually doing. But, we're running out of time here. It's gone so fast. So I want to kind of touch on this forgiveness thing because, the thing you said to me last night is, I don't believe in forgiveness.
I don't think it's necessary.
You don't think it's necessary. Okay. Right. And yet some of the world's greatest, healers and people that work in this kind of field will say that forgiveness is absolutely key because, we're holding on. However, I think there is a kind of a bit of an oxymoron here. So do you want to explain why it's not necessary?
Well, forgiveness drives you back to whatever happened in the first place, and you can't really understand that anymore. You're not in it anymore. You've passed it by. You've had a good sleep. So it's not as if you're going to remember it exactly, because our memories are flawed, as we well know. Forgiveness actually makes you access something that's not truth anymore. And there's no reason to keep bringing that up and up and up and regurgitating it. It is also not necessary
it's
because
not true anymore because it's the past.
Right.
It's in the past. It doesn't exist. Is that what you mean?
That's part of it. And the other part of it is that if everything in every moment is perfect, then there's nothing to forgive. And I know that sounds a bit, some people are going to say, well, how can that be? And I'm going to say to them, because we don't know the whole picture. We only know our part. And our part.
So what happens then what happens then, Jean, if somebody has been hurt by another person?
That's what I'm saying.
And they come to see you, and I can hear my husband's voice right now. It's like he's sitting next to me, but, saying, it's in the past. It's gone. It's gone. It doesn't exist anymore. So is that what you're talking about? Are you
I'm saying it's in the past. It may have hurt you at the time, but it's not the present. It's not what is here now. And it's also the fact that it was perfect at the time. Maybe not for you. It may not have been about you at all. You just happened to be part of that. But it may not have anything really to do with you as much as it has to do with perhaps the person who hurt you. We all have our pathways, don't we? We all have our journeys, And sometimes our journey collides with somebody else, and it's not necessarily about them as much as what it might be about us. There's a lot of compassion and in my way of thinking about it. But at the same time, it's so freeing and liberating. I don't think I have to always be seeking absolution for other people or for myself, because I'm doing the best I can with who I am and what I know in every moment. And the next moment, I'll know something else. I'll be somebody different.
Yeah.
Mm.
It could be a little tricky to understand for some people. Something just flashed into my head though, and it's something that I do say to myself,
Mhm.
and that is that an incident occurred when I was a child.
Yeah.
And the incident that had actually occurred was with somebody that is probably still significant to some degree
Yeah.
in my life.
Mhm.
And, today when I think back to it, when I'm thinking in terms of forgiveness, I tell myself that person is not that person anymore. They
That's
were a
right.
child.
Mhm.
They were a teenager. I'm not that person anymore. I was a child.
Yeah.
So we are not even that person
Nope.
because our body is changing over, all the time. And that brings me back to the cells, because I think what you said about the cells of your body, and Deepak Chopra says, the cells of your body are eavesdropping on your thoughts. So you've got to take hold of those thoughts,
Mhm.
take
Mhm.
hold of them, and, really make sure that they're either enhancing you or they're disempowering you.
Yeah, they are. And you get to decide.
Mm,
It's all
yeah.
about the decisions that you make every single moment and the course that your life will take, because every decision is another step.
Yeah. I
Mhm.
love that high level of thinking that you've got. And, it brings me to the question I know I always do ask. I'm Edge Radio Australia here, and obviously this is going to go to podcast as well. But I do always ask this question, and that is, there's so much, there's so much. I think we'll have to have you back again. That on this topic about healing. You've written over 30 books.
Mhm.
So I just want to make sure, I want to honor you by asking you the question, is there something that you would like to either reiterate to people that might be suffering? I mean, I know you believe in the voice connection and the
Yes.
frequency and the
Yes.
restoration.
Yes.
I'd really not love for you to jump off this broadcast and go, oh, I should have mentioned that. So what would you like to either reiterate or bring to the audience that could be praying to hear your message?
Well, if I'm going to reiterate anything, it is that we are who we are based on what we decide in every single moment. We get to control our language. We get to control our emotions. We get to control what we're attached to. We get to control every aspect of our lives based on our thoughts and what we believe. If you really want to know more about who you are, start by getting quiet and asking questions about what you believe. Who actually instilled that belief in you? If it isn't yours, it's time for a change.
Excellent. That's powerful. I think I'm going to have to come back and listen to this broadcast again, but I'll definitely have to have you back on the show. So, Jean Hamilton, I want to thank you so much for being on this show and everything that you have imparted. And I can't forget the Ford, because you are Jean Hamilton-Fford.
Yes.
And I honour you. And for those of you, you'll be able to pick up, I know that when we do our media stuff on it, you'll be able to find Jean's contact details in the show notes. So that's it from us at Edge Radio Australia. Jean, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you very much, Terry. It's been a pleasure.
Edge Radio.
Show
where we have explored through this various topic, along with all the exciting new topics that we bring every week to enhance your personal mastery of excellence. Now, I'd love you to do me a favor. In fact, be part of the Legacy 1 million that I have in the vision for 2028. If you know someone who really would benefit from this recording, from this episode, please share it with them. And when you subscribe, you get notified every week of our episode as soon as it drops. So let's do that legacy thing. Let's share, let's care, let's enrich. And I look forward to bringing you another week of the most enriching content. So until next time, stay inspired, stay awesome, and keep on mastering your excellence.